This is Isaac.
This is Anthony. Today we're going to be talking about the misconceptions with ketogenic diets, what they are, what they aren't, and where people tend to fail with ketogenic diets. So when it comes to ketogenic diets, people tend to look at them, kind of like Stephanie said, as the cure-all, because people want a quick fix. People want that diet, whether it's vegetarian diet, vegan diet, ketogenic diet, intermittent fasting. They want that fix that gives them the opportunity to live their life as freely as they want to without any real work involved in dieting.
Yeah, and that's something is that I do get questions a lot from clients who want to start ketogenic diets. Their idea of ketogenic dieting is usually just really, really high fat, and that's about it. They want to do really low protein, they want to do really low carbohydrates, and just eat a lot of fat. Now, the only downside on that, as far as like biochemistry-wise, is that vegetables are very, very high in nutrients. So if you're going to cut those out entirely and only eat fat, you're not getting very much from fat as far as nutrient, like micronutrients, so like calcium, magnesium, and things like that, things that your body needs to function. So if that's all that you're consuming, you're going to be cheating your body out of nutrients, and that's something that you don't want.
Yeah, and a big thing with that is too, you can't just go with fats and proteins. Like, you can't walk in HEB, get that, like, or whatever store you're going to, get that 5-pound tube of meat and go, hey, it's like 85% beef or 85% turkey, because one, it's gonna be higher protein than it will be fat. Two, you're getting the enzymes and chemicals and whatever else those animals were treated with, so it's not gonna digest the same way a deer or elk or emu.
Can you eat emu?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Is that a bird?
It's a bird, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an ostrich type.
Yeah,
It's like one of the flightless birds.
What would that just be called? Poultry?
Poultry, yeah.
Yeah.
But natural poultry, organic poultry.
Yeah.
It'll have a different breakdown.
Organic
in your
emus.
system. Yeah, organic
Yeah.
emus, yeah.
No, but well,
Grass
just to
feds.
touch back on your point, like
Yeah.
calcium helps regulate your nerve impulse transmissions and contractions and hormone secretions and all that. So if you're not getting calcium, you guys won't get any of those things, or magnesium and what it does, and potassium and blood clotting, right? So that's where the ketogenics, and people just tend to look the other way when it comes to the vegetables, even fruits.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And so when you're just eating fat is very important. You are supposed to have fat in your diet because vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K are all fat-soluble vitamins. So you need fat in your diet for those to be able to get into your body. Your body utilizes fat as the transport in the gut to bring that into your body in the first place. So you need fat in your diet, absolutely. But going strictly off of fat, like let's say high-fat meats, or lots of oils and things like that, there are right and wrong ways to go about a ketogenic type diet.
Yeah, and that's actually huge, because when you look at the fats, and if you're not taking in fats, your brain is 70% fat. Is that what it comes
It's
down to?
majority fat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something like that.
So if you're not taking enough fat and your body needs fat, it'll actually break down what it doesn't need. And we need our fat stores, like our actual visible fat, to supply us long-term energy in case of famine or extreme situations. The brain itself, we can actually break down and not lose anything, because I think I've said it before on some of my live videos, I may have said it on the last podcast, you only need your brain stem to function, which will control your heart, your liver, your lungs, your kidneys, your intestines, and that's it. So you can actually eat away at your logic and your higher brain, and yes, you'll have obviously cognitive issues, but your body itself will still function.
Yeah, your body is an excellent, this is gonna sound really funny, but I always describe the body as a squirrel, as it really is, because if you give it something, it will store it. So if you overeat, your body's gonna store that as fat. If you undereat, your body, that little squirrel is gonna go and find its stores that it had, and it's gonna break those down. Now, if it didn't store enough, it's gonna break other things down to try to eat it too. So your body is very, very good at trying to protect itself to just maintain function. And so just because at the very beginning you may not feel bad, you may ultimately run into long-term issues if this kind of diet, or really any diet in general, is done incorrectly.
Yeah, essentially your body just starts putting all the systems and processes on a priority list, and when you're not getting those nutrients, shit gets rearranged, and so then So, okay. I wasn't sure if I could cuss. Sorry. So things get rearranged, and then all of a sudden you're not doing the important things you should be, or only doing the important things and not those smaller things like losing weight, being healthy, building muscle. That stuff kind of just takes a back seat to the other stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there are dangers as far as, ketogenic diets are concerned. Like I said, if you're not doing it correctly, you're not getting enough nutrients. Also, too, when your body does start to break down your fat stores, that glucose that is eventually made does not get stored as glucose. So you do not replenish your glycogen stores from breaking down fat. So yes, carbohydrates are still required in some form or fashion, so that your body can still replenish the stores that are being depleted as you do start to transition into something that is a more higher fat diet.
Yeah, and a big thing with the carbs that are essential, like you're looking at plant-based carbs, vegetable, low, yeah, that was me earlier. Low glycemic carbohydrates, because you want to have the vitamins coming in, you want to have like a slow drip of carbohydrate coming in that'll allow your body to maintain a ketogenic state, but still get the vitamins it needs for all the essential processes. So your magnesium, your calcium, your potassium. If those things aren't coming in, things will eventually shut down. Isaac related a story to us about his personal experience with things shutting down, and it is reversible, but once people start experiencing it and they don't know what it's coming from, that's when they start to freak out.
Yeah. Did you want to kind of share?
Oh yeah, eventually, just again, your body prioritizes what's important, and like Tony said, you only need these certain things to really truly live. So again, hormonally, your system just starts being depleted, and you get these out of whack things happening. But it's super reversible. The body can always kind of reverse the process, heal itself. All you really need is the micronutrients, and those micronutrients are found in fruits and vegetables. So that's the importance of at least getting the vegetables when you're on the ketogenic diet.
Absolutely. And Anthony brought up low glycemic carbohydrates. So for those who don't know what that means, a low glycemic carbohydrate is something that is going to reduce let me start over. Low glycemic carbohydrates do not give you a very strong insulin response. And insulin, I'm sure a lot of people know what that, kind of translates back to, is insulin sensitivity is seen in diabetics. And so if your insulin is not working properly, glucose does not get into the cells, so you have lots of sugar in your blood, which can lead to issues in the long run. So why did I bring this up? I completely lost my train of thought. I started talking about insulin. Where did I start?
Well, we can go from the insulin thing.
Low glycemic carbohydrates. That's what I was talking about. I literally just started talking and just lost it. and we're done. Okay, so low glycemic carbohydrates. So low glycemic carbohydrates does not give you a strong insulin response, which is very good for diabetics. So if you're diabetic and you're not wanting to have a super spike in your insulin, you do go with low glycemic carbohydrates, which are usually non-starchy vegetables. So with non-starchy vegetables, those are broken down so slowly in your body, they give you long-lasting energy, but it doesn't really compete with the high-fat diet that you're taking in. So if you're taking in a lot of fat, that's not going to increase your insulin response. It's not going to give you a sugar spike or anything like that, but it breaks down slowly enough that you're still getting carbohydrates in your diet. Even though that was a really, really, really long-winded way to explain that, and I lost myself along the way, but that's what I was trying to say.
And another big thing, and you kind of went to it without realizing it, is the insulin response is also going to come from protein as well. So if you're trying to do a ketogenic type diet and your diet is 80% protein and 20% fat, you're still going to have that insulin response. And that's why they're saying it's 30% protein, 25% protein, 5% carbohydrates, and then the remainder is going to be your fat intake. If you do go too high with that protein, it will cause you to basically slip out of ketosis without even being aware that you're out of it, because you think you're doing the right things for your body, but you're just overloading with a ton of protein and not allowing it to actually stop producing insulin and become more insulin sensitive.
And so there is, as far as clinical nutrition is concerned, there are good applications for a ketogenic diet. Diabetics, there is research and things like that being done that a ketogenic diet might be beneficial for a diabetic, as it does help to reduce the insulin response so you don't get that sugar spike in your body. Now, that is stating that this is done correctly. So there's a lot of things that I've seen online as far as ketogenic diets are concerned. It's pretty much like no vegetables, no carbohydrates, and it's just fats. Now, if our body was made to survive specifically on fats alone, this wouldn't be an issue. Hey, that is awesome.
Glycemic load table.
Yeah, Anthony just pulled up a glycemic load table, so we can actually kind of tell you.
Peep the Instagram page.
Oh yeah.
I think we should post it on Instagram.
Post it on Instagram.
Or even through the video. No, not like that crazy. Oh my gosh. All right. So back to what we were talking about.
Anyway.
Essentially, I think what we're saying is it can work. These ketogenic low carb diets can work short term, but keeping your carbs too low for too long can be very disastrous for your long term health, longevity, lifespan, health span. So the goal is to stick around as long as we can. Also, if you're exercising, things can kind of get crazy if you're low carb, because we use that. We use a lot of our carbs for energy during exercise. So
yeah, and then so I did pull up this glycemic load table, and the big thing is when you look at the vegetables, they rate less than 15 is their marker. So when you look at like pure glucose at the top, and standard, the lab standard is white bread, which is 100. Like English muffins, 224. Pancakes, 346.
is there like fruit juice on there?
Yeah, fruit juice is on here. Tomato juice is a 27, so it's on the lower side.
Oh, that's good.
Orange juice is an 89. So when you think about white bread, if everyone's avoiding whites because of what they do to your system, a raspberry smoothie was at 127. Wow. So it's higher, and more sugar, and it makes more sense. Coca-Cola was at a 218. Gatorade was a 273.
Wow.
And then orange soda was a 314.
Wow.
So just orange. But when you look at vegetables, cheese less than 15. That's not a vegetable, I know. Butter less than 15. Beef less than 15. And then we go down to lettuce less than 15. Spinach,
There's a veggie.
cucumbers, mushrooms, asparagus, peppers,
wow,
broccoli,
super
carrots.
low.
Yeah, carrots were 11. Tomatoes less than 15. Peas, they kind of creep up there. So you can look at the vegetables that you can have without going too high and having too much of an insulin production, too much of a blood sugar spike. And that's one thing that people avoid. Like we touched on, people are avoiding all the roughage, all the phytonutrients they should be getting from their plants because they're afraid of slipping out of ketosis. But based on this table, you could eat an entire head of lettuce if you wanted to and never slip out of ketosis. Or 1 cup of spinach less than 15, mushrooms for a half cup still less than 15.
What that basically means is your blood sugar doesn't spike up as high as the 273 or whatever the number was for Gatorade, or the 100 for white bread, or the 89 for orange juice. So it would work with the ketogenic low carb diet, and you're still getting the phytonutrients and the micronutrients that you really need for the body to just process. I think we've been talking a lot about the cons and how essentially the ketogenic low carb is not long term.
Yeah,
but maybe we should talk a little bit about how it's beneficial and how it can help you for the first 3 months. I think it was beneficial for me when I was doing it up until about the 5-6 month marker. Once I got there, that's when I probably should have incorporated carbs sooner. I think I pushed it another month or so too long. I think I got to 7 months. But when I first started, I was 195 pounds, somewhere within that range. I think it was 18% body fat. And I remember vividly, within a month and a half, I dropped to about 11%, and I got to like 185. And then I continued that on a few months after I left Lifetime, and I think I ended up getting down to as low as 10. And then that's when energy and hormonal levels got kind of just out of whack. I started noticing some differences, so I started introducing more carbs, supplements, essential oils, things like that to kind of jumpstart me up again. And actually, when I did that, I've even gotten lower, and now I'm like flirting with 6-7% body fat, and that's with eating a decent amount of carbs, fruits, vegetables, really not worrying about too much about all the numbers that a ketogenic diet was.
And that's
Oh, and I got strong too.
yeah.
I mean, I got really, really strong.
Yeah, because your body runs better on fat than it does on the sugars, and your body runs cleaner on fats than it does on sugars. So like Stephanie was saying, you're not breaking down the fat to replenish your energy stores, but you're breaking down your fat to create energy stores. Like when you're doing the carb backloading, when you're doing things like that, carb night, where you're dumping in one high carb meal, you're actually taking all of the carbohydrates that you need, flushing them right into your system, and that allows for those strength gains, that allow for the compositional changes.
And then the leptin to kind of reignite. Yeah.
Yeah, that helps a ton. The other thing you have too is when you're on this ultra low carb diet, it makes a great transitional diet, because a lot of times getting that extra fat in there, getting those extra proteins in there, it doesn't make you feel like you're cheating yourself or robbing yourself. Because when you think about it, if you were to go and have a burger with no bun and some veggies, you know, that technically would be a keto-based meal, because you would have some cheese on it. It would drive up your fat intake. Maybe you put butter on your vegetables. Maybe you put butter on your burger. I mean, you can put butter on anything. And that keeps you in ketosis. It makes you feel like you're not dieting while you are dieting. So it allows you to bring up the good nutrients, because you start introducing more vegetables. You're just taking out the stuff that you know is bad for you, the processed stuff.
Absolutely. And another pro as far as like the ketogenic diet is concerned is that in order for your body, especially for someone who eats a lot of high processed carbohydrates, in order for your body to understand how to break down fats that you have stored, you have to consume fats. You have to teach your body how to break them down as you digest them, in order for your body to realize that it can start to break down what you have stored as energy as well. So incorporating, since this is relatively short term, incorporating a higher fat diet can help to jumpstart your body into learning how to break down fats, that when you are exercising, that it realizes that it can revert to utilizing fats as a form of energy to get you going, versus just having to rely on carbohydrates. So if your body's been relying on carbohydrates pretty heavily for a long time, teaching your body how to utilize fats by ingesting fats absolutely makes a really big difference.
Yeah, and then the big thing that Stephanie just hit was working out, because a lot of times people will do this and they're not working out, which means if their ratios are off and they're doing, let's say, 40% protein and 15% carbs and the remainder of fat, what'll end up happening is your body will upregulate insulin sensitivity based on your workouts. So if your insulin is off and you're producing too much of it, you can actually absorb carbohydrates, decrease insulin just by having that workout in there, which will actually amplify the effects, because like Stephanie was saying, if your body's breaking down fat to fuel you, then you're going to break down fat faster, which is amazing. But you have to be moving, and that's the big thing with a lot of this stuff. It doesn't have to be movement based, but a lot of the solutions work faster if you have movement with them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then too, I think I touched on that a little bit earlier, is another pro is that there has been research as far as, the utilization, at least clinically, of a ketogenic diet with diabetics, as far as incorporating less high glycemic carbohydrates like high processed carbs and lots of fruits, which does increase your insulin spike. So with a ketogenic diet and incorporating vegetables, so low glycemic carbohydrates, can absolutely help to revert diabetic symptoms. And there have been people who have gotten off of diabetic medication specifically through their diet by changing the way that they're eating and teaching their body how to regulate their hormones correctly.
Yeah, and when you look at getting that fat in there, the brain function goes up as well, because when your body produces those triglycerides, if you're moving, that will actually cross the brain-blood barrier, which will actually help your brain function better, which will improve your mood. So a lot of times when you hear about people changing their diet, they get depressed because they're losing the foods they want to eat. Well, they're losing the foods they want to eat, but they're also losing the energy source for their brain. So upregulating that ketone production is going to help with brain function, which will help with mood stability, which will decrease the urge to cheat on your diet and things of that nature.
Yeah, it's very true. Especially, I mean, fat tastes good. I mean, that's the thing, is that a lot of people are afraid of fat because once upon a time, everybody just believed that fat was what was causing, one, for people to get fat, and causing lots and lots of health risks. So there's actually healthy fats, which I think we should touch on as far as what constitutes a healthy fat. So healthy fat options are absolutely avocado, coconut oil, olive oil, avocado oil, clarified butter or ghee is an awesome choice, as well as nuts and seeds.
So avocados, I heard avocado oil.
Yeah, I said avocado.
Okay.
Yeah.
Olive oil.
I didn't say olives,
Oh,
but yeah,
okay, yeah.
absolutely.
What do you guys think about ketogenic in relation to the specific sex, male and female? I feel like it's definitely something that should be more approached by just males than females,
I think that's fair.
because of females have pregnancies. You don't necessarily want to be pregnant, but the body should, I think from a female's perspective, the body should always be capable of becoming pregnant. Not saying you're going to be pregnant.
You
but
do keto, you're going to get pregnant.
yeah, ultra low carb ketogenic diets essentially just cause haywire with the hormones, and that's not a safe environment to have a pregnancy. So even if you plan on having a pregnancy in the future, doing the ketogenic diet can cause some long-term damage possibly. So be careful if you're a female.
Yeah, and one thing with that though, I would almost disagree, but not at the same time. If your body fat is too low, or if your body fat is higher, as a female or a male, the ketogenic diet would be fine, because one of the things that Isaac's pointing out is your hormone's going to be produced based on the fat that's on your body and how well balanced your body is. So if you're using it as a kickstart and you're a female, that's fine. But if you are, already 15% body fat and you decide to go into a ketogenic diet, you could potentially throw off your menstrual cycles and everything else because you're getting too low. And I think the biggest thing is, if you're starting high, it's not going to have as big of an impact. So back to Isaac's thing, as his body fat was dropping lower and lower, that's where his system kind of went awry. And that happens to a lot of competitors, no matter what kind of diet they follow. As their body fat gets too low, it just completely jacks them up.
Yeah.
But yeah, ketogenic diet with a female with low body fat already existing in low body fat would be...
Definitely ask questions before starting.
Yeah.
If you have the
Absolutely.
fat to lose, it's probably going to be a yes, but I would still ask. And if you don't have the fat to lose, it's just going to be a solid no, because for you, honestly, more carbs and a different approach would be the better way to still lose fat without disrupting any hormone.
Yeah, and so, I mean, touching on like what you said, yes, so hormone production is very heavily tied with fat intake. So hormones are produced with fat. So you need fat, especially as a woman, seeing as I happen to be a woman. I should know this. But yeah, no. Oh, they can't see me, exactly.
They can't see you, yeah.
It is incredibly important to be able to have fat in your diet, and that's something that I do always try to press, is that as a woman, our fat percentage, our body fat percentage should be higher, period, because you should still be able to menstruate. Going so low on body fat to the point where your body has to stop your menstruation because it's trying to protect itself, that is not okay. That is not healthy, and that is no longer safe. That should not be maintained for a long period of time. You should still be able to menstruate, because menstruating there is reasons for why that our bodies do that. So that does help to keep our bodies healthy and functioning properly. And so hormone production, the ability to menstruate, the ability to get pregnant and to be able to lactate, that is all going to be very heavily reliant on how much fat stores we have. So yes, I completely agree with you guys as far as if you have a high body fat percentage, going into a short-term ketogenic diet is going to be probably not going to make any detrimental issues with your body. But if you already are low body fat and you're wanting to go lower as a woman, you should probably maybe rethink that, unless you're a competitor only doing that for very, very short term.
So overall, what do you guys think about the that diet, the low carb ketogenic diet? What do you think, Anthony?
I think from a personal thing, again, depending on your not fat intake, the body fat that you have, I think it can be an amazing way to springboard you from where you are to where you want to be. Using it to either kickstart you, using it until you get closer to your goal body fat, male or female, could be ideal, but depending on what that is for females. So when you look at a lot of, slight rant here, but when you look at a lot of social media, you see women with super low body fats.
Oh, here we go.
I know. The hormonal ramifications of maintaining a low body fat for a significant period of time is huge. So if you have, someone who's taking, and this is the other thing too, because they're taking pictures, and literally you can go through your closet right now and take 30 pictures in 30 different shirts, but it's gonna be the same mirror, it's gonna be almost the exact same lighting, it's everything else. You can create a backlog of all these photos, and then you can get as fat as you want and post pictures of you being as lean as you want to be, or as lean as you want people to look at. But that's a completely different thing for a different time. Back
Maybe
on
next
task.
week.
Yeah. God, I can do this all day. But when you think about what the benefits are, it's hormonally for females huge, because most women aren't getting enough fat to start with because they're afraid of it. Psychologically for males and females, huge boost. Like Stephanie said, they've done clinical studies on the reversal of type 2 diabetes. Brain function, they've shown benefits in dementia and Alzheimer's patients, decreased risk of it in people with higher fat diets. But that goes back to what we said earlier about your brain chemistry and your brain itself being mostly fat. So all in all, for a kickstart, or somebody who's looking to get closer to competition, that would be the easiest thing to use, because you're keeping the fats in there, you're staying happy, and you're staying full, versus being starving all the time on a diet.
And then too, of course, still incorporating the low glycemic vegetables to maintain your body function. You still want your body to function properly, so you do still need to maintain that. The vegetable carbohydrates. So if you wanted to, maybe just for sake of recording purposes, like not record the vegetables that you intake, as long as you're still getting 9 to 11 servings at least of vegetables every day while on this diet, you still can maintain proper body function while utilizing that.
Yeah.
And like right now I'm looking, so I'm trying to find this. I can't remember the diet type. There was an ultra low fat diet, and the guy who made it, I can't remember if it's the Pritikin diet. I know it's not the Ornish diet, because Dean Ornish is still alive, right?
I think so.
Yes, the Pritikin diet. So the Pritikin diet, it is 10% fat, ultra low calorie, super high carb. Unfortunately, the Nathan Pritikin, the person who founded the diet and developed it, suffered from depression before getting on here, or actually it doesn't say the timeline where his depression came from, but he suffered with heart
it
disease.
happened in college while he was in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He dropped out, and then I'm reading it here.
Oh, okay. I just got it.
Cool. Go ahead. No, that was it. That was all I needed to say, because that was the only question you had.
And then in 1957, he had, was diagnosed with heart disease, and then in 76, yeah, he established the Pritikin Longevity Center and launched the Pritikin diet, which was the ultra low carb and everything else. And then his depression, which goes back to what we were saying about fat and how it impacts your system, his depression got so bad that he committed suicide. Now, there's no way to correlate that, kind of like Stephanie said last time, correlation is not equal causation. But if we know that fat helps with mood, we know that fat helps with, stabilizing hormones, balancing serotonin and dopamine in the brain, helps balance out a ton of anti-anxiety hormones and everything else, it goes to theory that the diet could have actually led to the suicide.
Fat is important in your diet. Carbohydrates are important in your diet. Protein is important in your diet. There's a reason why we have 3 macronutrients that are important. They all serve a function. So, I wouldn't recommend going super, super low on anything unless you know what you're doing and you're working with, a professional who can, help to educate you on how to do that. Even like we're saying, this kind of ketogenic diet with a high, low glycemic vegetable intake, you're still getting carbohydrates in a much slower released amount. So you're not really missing out on carbohydrates. You're still able to perform brain function and things like that. You're still going to be able to, do what you need to do. It's just you are doing this short term for either whether it's health reasons, or to lower your body fat percentage, or to kickstart into teaching your body how to utilize fats properly during exercise. There are good utilizations for this. You just have to make sure that you understand what the downsides might be, and whether or not it might even be something that would be beneficial for you.
Yeah, and guidance with any diet type, kind of like we touched on at the very beginning, is the best way to start it. I think it was Isaac who said, ask questions, like find people who know, and by know, again, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. You're not looking for somebody who's, just started in social media, they train one client, they see success. Because success with a person, when you're highlighting that success, it could be, a flash in the pan, is that the term for it? You get a one-hit wonder, there we go. You get that one client who takes off, does everything that you say. Can it be duplicated? Do you know the ins and outs of a diet structure? So if you turn to someone and you're like, hey, I need help with a ketogenic diet, I need help with a low-carb diet, I need help with a vegan diet, vegetarian diet, and somebody has all the answers, and there's never a question that you can ask that they'll say I don't know to, then I'd be worried about that. All of us here will fully admit if we don't know something, and that's why we do this, because we have other brains to pick from, and we're willing to pick from other people. There's no amount of ego in the world that's worth somebody's health.
Yes, that's exactly right. So be careful as far as things like this, especially going low or really high on any kind of macronutrient. Just understand how that's going to affect your body, and be safe. I mean, if things start kind of feeling awry, stop and go to a doctor, or talk to a dietitian or a nutritionist that is willing to look information up for you and get good information for you. That's what you should be looking for. But I think we did I think that's a decent amount of information, I feel like.
Agreed.
So.
And we stayed on task mostly.
We mostly stayed on task, as long as I remember what I'm trying to talk about.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, guys, for tuning in today. We are going to be changing up the way that we do these coming in the future. We're going to do them more like kind of table talks. We're going to actually let you see us interact with one another. So we'll be able to do it more, like I said, like a table talk kind of thing. We'll videotape this versus just record it, so that you can see us interacting. You can kind of see what we're doing, and it'll be a little bit more interactive for you guys. So it won't just be sound. Hopefully coming up this next round. So thank you very much for listening to us today. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to let us know. But we hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Yes, thanks for coming.
Peace out.
Thanks for checking us out. If you like this, go ahead, like it, share it, subscribe. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram.